From our studio in Georgetown, this is the TV Delmarva Channel 14 News at 4.
Good day, Delmarva. Reporter Rob Petrie here for TV Delmarva Channel 14 News. Straight ahead, Republican lawmakers have introduced a new bill, the Delaware Education Right to Know Act, which would protect parental rights in schools and bring more transparency to the state's education system. We sit down with the bill's sponsors to discuss it. And 2 women from West Virginia were arrested in Dover in connection with the murder of a 13-year-old. These stories and more on the way, but weather first with Hunter Alton.
Well, good Thursday afternoon, Delmarva. We have some very active weather expected to go into the afternoon and evening hours tonight. Take a live look outside the TV Delmarva studios here in Georgetown. We have plenty of gray skies out there. We've been having a lot of shaking on our camera here in Georgetown because we've been seeing some wind gusts as high as 45 miles per hour at this hour with temperatures into the lower 70s. I want to show you some satellite and radar across the region. Here's some of the 2 places that I'm watching out for mostly. This area of storms over in southeastern Virginia that continues to move off towards the northeast impact areas of the Maryland eastern shore. This has a history of producing some very, very strong winds, and as well as some rotation near the Richmond area. And then we have our cold front further off towards the west near the Appalachian Mountains near Cumberland that will continue to move off towards the east over the next several hours. Now, we do have some weather hazards we need to talk about too, because we have 2 different watches in effect. First one for the Maryland Western Shore, including La Plata, Lexington Park, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Bel Air, Westminster, all the way to Frederick, Maryland. You are under a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock tonight, where we have the potential of seeing some wind gusts as high as 70 miles per hour and maybe an isolated tornado threat. And here, closer to Delmarva in this area of yellow, Dorchester, Wicomico, Worcester, Somerset, Accomack, and Northampton counties, you're under a tornado watch until 8 o'clock tonight for the threat of those storms from Virginia moving up into the area that might continue to have a tornado risk over the next couple of hours. Now, I'm going to be here in the studio throughout much of this afternoon and evening, giving you the latest updates regarding the storm threat, and just in case we need to pop back on, just in case we have a tornado warning that gets issued. So stick around later on this evening. I'll continue to update you as the story develops.
Republican lawmakers have introduced a brand new bill, the Delaware Education Right to Know Act, which would protect parental rights in schools and bring more transparency to the state's education system. The legislation, House Bill 326, introduced earlier this month, gives parents, guardians, and other educational stakeholders in the state more information and opportunities to evaluate public and charter school education here in Delaware. We got a chance to sit down this morning with the bill's primary sponsor, State Rep. Charles Postles, and co-sponsor, State Rep. Lyndon Yerrick.
This bill has been a while in the making, mostly from parents that have expressed some concern about what's going on in schools. Discussions actually started before COVID, but when we went into the virtual and the remote learning, parents got an insight into the classroom and what was happening more than they had had before. And it kind of opened their eyes as to what some of the situations were, and piqued their interest and just said, we need to know more. And so the result of these conversations is this bill.
We wish that having raised 3 kids, all going through the public school system, that first and foremost, the relationship with the student, the family, the teacher is fundamental. That's where it all begins. And we're jumping to the legislative, what may or may not be a fix, but I always advocate that first and foremost, that the parents, guardian, grandparents, whoever's responsible for that son or daughter or grandchild, they need to build that relationship with their immediate teacher. They need to be involved with what goes on at school. They need to be involved with the administration. It's hard work, but it's very important work that those things should never change. Being engaged with what goes on at the school board, being engaged with school board elections. So we're the furthest part away from trying to create those relationships. But that's where it first needs to begin. The legislation just wants to reaffirm, stress, mandate that parents definitely, first and foremost, need to know what's going on. It should be embraced. It should be encouraged. And anything that is done without engaging the guardian of that child is just it's irresponsible and it's unfortunate.
What words do you have for your colleagues on the other side of the aisle who, may not support the legislation?
Again, when we look at our schools and not just in Delaware, but nationwide, there's a direct correlation between parental involvement, the number of parents, how strongly reading is encouraged at the homes. We want to do everything we possibly can to build a relationship between the student, their family, and the school. That's first and foremost, that again, the parents, guardian, grandparents that are raising, responsible for those children need to be committed to make sure that son or daughter, grandchild is ready to learn that day, has the opportunity to go to school with hopefully the right number of meals and them going in. It may sound rudimentary or fundamental, but that's where it's a huge gap that they need to be engaged. So they should encourage, all colleagues should encourage as much parental involvement with our schools because it'll only make them stronger. We hear concerns, and it's been since the dawn of time, the lack of involvement with PTA or other parent organizations. But fundamentally, we need to do everything we possibly can to encourage that, understanding what the agenda is, the syllabus is for their son or daughter, regardless of their age, being a part of parent-teacher conferences, things that some folks just take for granted, but we need to make sure everybody doesn't take them for granted, but actually does them.
The bill has been assigned to the House Education Committee and is expected to be considered next week. The Dover Police Department and U.S. Marshals Service have arrested 2 women at a local hotel wanted for murder in West Virginia on Wednesday evening. 22-year-old Isis Wallace and 42-year-old Nicole Brooks, both of Bluefield, West Virginia, were wanted in connection with the shooting death of a 13-year-old girl in Bluefield on March 23rd. Officers from the Dover Police Department conducted surveillance at a hotel before executing a search warrant and taking both suspects into custody. Both suspects surrendered without incident. Both Brooks and Wallace will be held at the Baylor Women's Correctional Institution pending their extradition to West Virginia. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy reports that a plane went down in the Chincoteague Bay, resulting in the death of at least 1 service member just outside the NASA Wallops Island flight facility on Wednesday. Our Hunter Alton has the details.
A Navy E-2D Hawkeye assigned to the East Coast Airborne Command and Control Squadron crashed in the vicinity of the Wallops Island and Chincoteague, Virginia region. Around 7:30 p.m., a Norfolk-based 3-person crew was conducting routine flight operations in the vicinity of the Wallops Island flight facility and for unknown reasons went down into the marshlands of the Chincoteague Bay, not too far off from the Queen Sounds Bridge on Route 175. Crews were dispatched to the area from Accomack, Wicomico, and Worcester County first responders, as well as the Coast Guard for a rescue mission to retrieve the individuals from the crash. Upon arrival, 2 crew members self-extricated and were located on top of the plane. Maryland State Police transported those crew members who were later treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The 3rd crew member remained missing but later found deceased at the scene. The Worcester County Fire Department dive team supported the search and recovery efforts of the deceased, and the name of the crew member will not be released at this time pending primary next of kin notification, as well as the other 2 crew members due to privacy concerns. Now the investigation remains ongoing today on what caused the plane to crash in the first place, and we will provide later updates as the situation develops.
Well, some major projects are on the way to improve Delaware's infrastructure. More details coming up. Don't go away. Delaware will advance major planned projects, make road systems more resilient to climate change, and apply for funding to serve traditionally disadvantaged areas using federal transportation funds over the next several years. The federal bipartisan infrastructure law is a described once-in-a-generation commitment to improving roads, bridges, transit, water, and wastewater systems here in the first state. Transportation is the largest area of new investment in the new law. In a visit to South Bowers Beach Wednesday, Governor Carney and DelDOT Secretary Nicole Majeski highlighted some of the first decisions on construction and improvements to Delaware's road network using the funding which will stretch for the next 5 years. The infrastructure law is also providing an additional $160 million over 5 years to Delaware's main highway spending programs. Well, it's looking like we're in store for severe thunderstorms tonight as we get a preview of your pinpoint weather forecast with Hunter Alton.
Strong to severe thunderstorms are possible for the rest of this afternoon and evening hours. Some of these storms may contain some very strong winds, and an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out before 10 p.m. We will see a nice cool down behind this cold front late tonight with some leftover isolated showers for your Friday. And we will have more rain chances expected into this weekend. Now don't go anywhere, because when we come back, I'll give you the rundown on the severe weather threat this evening here on TV Delmarva Channel 14 News. Alrighty, Delmarva, let's get right into it, because we have the threat for severe weather going in for the rest of this afternoon into the evening hours. For tonight, we're going to be looking at some scattered thunderstorms, especially earlier on, and some of those could be on the strong to severe side as well. And those temperatures will be cooling down just after midnight with overnight lows 48 to 54 degrees. We're still going to be dealing with those really breezy conditions too, but they will be switching directions from the northwest of 10 to 15 miles per hour. Now take a look at the convective outlook. We did have an update this afternoon. Still, all of Delmarva is under a slight risk of severe weather. That's a level 2 out of 5 risk. But the bigger update is for areas in northwestern Maryland, including Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Bel Air, stretching back to Westminster and Frederick, Maryland. That is an enhanced risk. That's a level 3 out of 5 risk. That is the greatest potential of seeing some wind damage and potential isolated tornadoes as well as we get deeper into the afternoon and evening hours. Here's some of the severe threats across the region today. Still watching out for the potential of some isolated tornadoes. There's a lot of wind shear up above us today. Not really expecting much in the way of any hail. A lot of warmer air aloft. Maybe could see a size of quarters here and there, but more than likely we probably won't even really see any hail reports. But the biggest threat today is going to be those high winds. 50 to 70 miles per hour winds are definitely possible within these storms, and that's a pretty high threat today as well. And rainfall, not much of a big deal either, expecting underneath an inch with most of these thunderstorms. I want to show you some of the wind shear that we're seeing across the region. This is the wind shear in the lowest kilometer of the atmosphere. So that's the surface to 1 kilometer up in the atmosphere. And look at all these purplish colors. That is 60 to 70 knot winds, not too far away from the surface. So these storms should not have any problem tapping into the stronger winds and bringing them down towards the surface. That's why we do have that enhanced risk threat, especially for areas just across the bay. Now, the TV Delmarva Tornadic Energy Helicity Index, this is 8 o'clock this evening. We got some areas of some 20 and 25% over on the Maryland Western Shore. This is where the best potential of seeing an isolated tornado going into this afternoon is for areas near the DC, Baltimore, Lexington Park area. But once we get into 11 o'clock, that threat shifts a little bit towards the east. And here on Delmarva, expecting maybe about a 10% chance of one of these storms could have a tornadic potential, but definitely the biggest threat is going to be just to our west here on the Mid-Atlantic states. Now, take a look at the futurecast for the afternoon and evening hours. This is 5 o'clock this afternoon. We got a nice looking thunderstorm just in the Chesapeake Bay area. I think this is the same one that is currently impacting areas of Richmond, so we have to watch out for that as it moves up towards the northeast. Temperatures are still in the upper 60s to about 70 degrees. Going into 8 o'clock this evening, we have those storms moved off. We still have that cold front much further west over towards areas of Frederick, Maryland and Westminster, and that will continue to move in from the east. And then we're going to be looking at probably a lot of these storms are going to die off once the sun gets down. There isn't a whole lot of instability out there. So once it starts to lose that little bit of heat, we're going to see these storms become more isolated in nature into the evening hours. And then by 5 o'clock, that cold front will be moved well off of our coast. Temperatures will be dropping down into the mid-50s. Still looking at some fairly cloudy skies and some isolated showers. But going into tomorrow, though, 10 o'clock, we're going to be looking at the sunshine returning and much noticeably cooler temperatures, though, in the lower 50s. And then by the afternoon hours, we're going to be looking at maybe some isolated showers returning once again with that cloud cover, but temperatures still in the low 50s. Friday forecast overall, though, we got partly sunny skies with some isolated showers here and there. Afternoon temperatures 52 to 55 degrees, and it is going to be still breezy. Unfortunately, it seems like we can't get rid of that breeze, but it will be from the west between 10 and 20 miles per hour. And with the added winds, we're going to be looking at allergy indexes tomorrow in that medium-high category, 7.3 out of 12. And with your typical tree pollen this time of year, juniper, maple, and alder expected. Now, we're going to switch gears and take a look at the marine conditions for your Friday. We got morning showers on the Atlantic, 59 degrees, winds from the northwest at 15 to 25 miles per hour with seas still fairly large out there, 3 to 6 feet. Take a look at the Delaware Bay. Morning showers, 56 degrees, winds from the northwest at 15 to 20 miles per hour with seas of 1 to 2 feet. And then at Chesapeake Bay, morning showers, 57 degrees, winds from the northwest at 15 to 20 miles per hour with seas of around 1 to 2 feet expected. Now, going into the overnight hours tomorrow night, we're going to be looking at much nicer conditions, mostly clear skies, and we'll be cooling off quite a bit, though, 32 to 36 degrees, and you guessed it, windy conditions still continuing from the northwest between 10 and 15 miles per hour. Now, take a look at that extended outlook. Well, we're still going to be dealing with some rain chances even going into this weekend. Only about a 30% chance during the overnight hours Saturday into Sunday, with temperatures about average for this time of year near 60 degrees. We get a break from the precipitation on Monday, partly sunny and 60 degrees. And we got that nice warm-up trend towards the middle portions of next week. But unfortunately, rain chances are going to follow with temperatures getting into the lower 70s.
Coming up, space tourism took another leap forward with another launch from Blue Origin today. More details on the way. Keep it here. Space tourism took another leap forward with another launch from Blue Origin just today. Our Jonathan Mistrat has the story.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1.
And with that, 6 more people became astronauts on the 4th passenger launch of Blue Orbit's New Shepard's mission.
And liftoff. New Shepard's cleared the tower.
And liftoff. Mission Control has confirmed New Shepard has cleared the tower and is on its way to space with our 4th human flight crew.
Godspeed, New Shepard. Godspeed, the Roaring Twenties. Enjoy this ride.
This was considered a commercial flight because 5 of the 6 on board paid for their trip. Gary Lay, a chief architect of the rocket who filled in for Saturday Night Live actor and comedian Pete Davidson, described the experience.
It was different. I mean, I don't know, because I've never been in the centrifuge, so I mean, I felt my skin pulling taut. And I think more dramatic than even the 0G was the throttle back from 3G. When we throttled down, I felt like I was rising there. And even the entire time I felt I was in 0G, I felt like I felt like I was falling towards the ceiling. Yeah. So it was intense, and I did get a little bit of a feeling of vertigo.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah. And I know most of the astronauts have said in the past that they haven't felt nauseous. I did feel a little bit of nausea, for sure. I'm so overcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for Team Blue. Thank you for this opportunity. I will never forget it.
Thank you. Thank you for making this real, and making it a possibility for us to be able to send people.
The launch was on hold for about 45 minutes with just under 10 minutes to launch, but in the end, the Roaring Twenties crew got to experience zero gravity and speeds of over 2,000 miles per hour for the 9 minutes in space. Jonathan Mistrat for TV Delmarva News.
Weather Classroom is sponsored by No Nonsense Office Machines, committed to providing quality products and services with over 15 years of experience here in Sussex County. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's weather lesson, we will be talking about the differences between tornado watches and tornado warnings. Now, with a tornado watch, that means be prepared. Tornadoes are possible in or near the watch area. Review and discuss your emergency plans and check supplies and your safe room. Be ready to act quickly if a warning is issued or you suspect a tornado is approaching. Acting early helps save lives. Watches are issued by the Storm Prediction Center for counties where tornadoes may occur. The watch area is typically very large and covering numerous counties or even entire states. Then we get to the second one, tornado warnings. That means take action. A tornado has been sighted or indicated by weather radar, or there happened to be sighted by someone who is a trained weather spotter or local law enforcement. There is immediate danger to life and property when this occurs. Move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building and make sure to avoid windows. If you happen to live in a mobile home, a vehicle, or just happen to be outdoors, move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris. Warnings are issued by your local forecasting office, which the warnings are typically encompass a much smaller area, maybe around the size of a city or a small county that may be impacted by the tornado that's identified on radar from a local National Weather Service employee or a trained weather spotter or local law enforcement who happens to be watching the storm. Although the yearly average for tornadoes here in Delmarva is only about 1 a year, but in the last few years we have seen several destructive tornadoes and we continue to see those averages increase. Make sure you have a way to be notified for these warnings, whether from your smartphone or in the best case scenario during the nighttime events. A NOAA weather radio is your best friend and the best method for alerting you when a warning is issued.
Well, that about does it for us today, Delmarva. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at TV Delmarva and on our website, tvdelmarva.com, for real-time news and weather updates. And while you're there, be sure to sign our petition calling on the major cable providers to carry TV Delmarva on their platforms so we can provide this kind of local programming to all of Delmarva. Until next time, I'm Rob Petrie reporting for TV Delmarva, Channel 14 News.